Hi, my name is Susan and welcome to Sketchbook Stories. In this series, I'm going to open up the pages of my own sketchbooks to show you exactly what's inside, the good, the bad, and the messy. I will explain the story behind each sketch and describe exactly how it was created. Let's get stuck in. Hi and welcome back. So today I just wanted to show you inside this little moleskin sketchbook here. This is one of my tiny little sketchbooks that was started in February 2020, and I just wanted to show you this page here and the couple of pages before and after that are studies of mushrooms or fungus. And this was inspired by a 7-day sketchbook challenge that I ran that year. And this was just day one, which was fungus or mushrooms. And I just want to show you how I created these kind of designs and what tools and materials I used. Now this is the most finished sketchbook page, so what I'm going to do is work backwards and show you the different stages. Now the first thing that I did was just using pencil sketch a number of different mushroom shapes. Some of these were from imagination, and some of them would have used a photographic reference of some description. I quite like working from imagination with something like that, and I think it's important when you're experimenting with sketching and sketching a particular thing, such as mushrooms or flowers or leaves or whatever it might be, is to try several variations on a sketch, several variations, shapes. That's what's lovely about a sketchbook, is that you can experiment in different ways. And so a pencil outline, something like this, would be how I start. I'd kind of picture in my brain, what does a mushroom look like? What does a toadstool look like? And sometimes I even return to the same shape several times over, but just try it in different ways. And in this particular sketchbook, at this particular time, a couple of years ago, I was experimenting with a more illustrative style using fine liner pen. And at times adding a little bit of colour in, and sort of stylised lines for shading. I was thinking of hatching, cross-hatching, and little marks like this that give the impression of light and dark, but aren't scribbling and colouring in this kind of way. Stylised lines that mark both the shape but also give a little bit of value, i.e. light and dark. So a pencil sketch would be how these started out. And then I choose a waterproof fine liner pen, and it's important that it's waterproof just because the next layer is adding on these Inktense pencils, which are basically watercolour pencils, so you get water on it, which therefore means it could smudge any pen that you use that is not water fast. So the next stage would be, and I would sometimes lighten my pencil. I've used quite a soft pencil here on the camera so that you can see my pencil drawing. I would probably normally use a much harder pencil, a 2H, something like that, to sketch. And then the next stage would be that I go over the lines in this kind of bold way. And I learn from my initial pencil drawing, so if there's something I want to accentuate or change or alter, I would do that at this stage. So my pencil lines are like my foundations, and then I can alter accordingly. So I'm just going to add a little bit of marking here, and in a stylized way with some diagonal lines here, add some shading onto this one here. And that is how I would do this stage of the process. Just go over the drawing with a fine liner pen. I would wait for it to dry, then using a rubber, I would rub out any remaining pencil lines. So here you can't really see any pencil lines visible. On this, I have probably used a 0.3 or a 0.4 thickness pen that is quite narrow. The one I've just used on the screen here is 0.5, which is just that little bit thicker. But this would have been a slightly thinner thing. Now the next stage would be adding in colour. And I love these Inktense pencils. They've just got such vibrancy. And you can use them just as colouring pencils. So I'm going to go over this one here. Something that I do quite a lot is I will come back to sketches. So, you know, I'll do the pencil part first, and then maybe another time I'll come back and work in ink pen. And then I'll leave it a bit and come back another day and add in colour. So I'm just going to work directly onto these pencil sketches here. And even when I'm just using colour, essentially I'm colouring in really, aren't I? I still think about light and dark and trying to give form to this by pressing harder in some areas and lighter in others. So there's this sense of depth. Let's try this colour here. And then that's basically, you know, how this particular sketchbook page would have been worked up. Just working a little bit, adding a bit more colour, you know, blending colours perhaps as well. I think the shading is darker this side on this particular one. You know, adding, you know, I've used 3 different colours there. And you can just leave it like that, but the wonderful thing about Inktense pencils, if you just grab a little bit of water, you can then almost bring the colours to life and make them into watercolour paints by adding this water. See how that comes out now? Oh, fabulous. So just add a little bit of water and that colour comes to life. And I quite like, I think on some of them I've just done a really light bit of scribbling at the bottom in a little bit of like that, and just added water to it and just made a little bit of colour to it. Okay. So that's how these particular styles of sketches were done. Pencil outlines first, ink pen, fine liner pen, these uni pin pens that are waterproof and fade proof, rub out the pencil lines underneath, and then going over with Inktense pencils and maybe a little bit of water to blend the colours and make it more painterly. See how that pops and that comes out on the page. And as I said, you know, I revisit these sort of sketches. There's probably, yeah, some in here, like this one here. I haven't even finished the pen outlines here. You know, I've done the pencil, obviously got distracted, haven't finished it off, haven't returned to it. So this might be a page I come back to at another time. Okay, so that's the story and the explanation behind this page that was actually started in September 2020 and clearly never finished. But that's how I would create these sketches, and I hope you find this interesting and enjoyable. I'll speak to you soon.